some people get promoted while others remain in the same position year on year? It's currently performance season at my workplace, and as a manager, here are 5 things that I value most in my team, and these are things that I believe have also helped me to progress in my career. The first one is being a self-starter. Now, self-starters are people who don't have to be pushed or coaxed into doing their job. If somebody has to constantly tell you what to do, you are not a self-starter. It's okay to need direction when you're starting a new job, but if you're coming upon a year and you still need hand-holding, then there is a problem, and you are likely somebody's headache. Here are some characteristics of self-starters. The first is taking initiative. I recall sometimes when I would run meetings for some of my auditors, and I would watch them in the meeting just sitting there and not taking any notes. And that is actually a sign of not taking initiative. The second is that self-starters add value and solve problems. So they are the people that see a gap and they're already thinking of how to actually cover it. They are the ones who think, what if we do this? The third is that they take ownership of their work. For me, as a self-starter, I pride myself in quality deliverables. If anything is going to have my name on it, it's going to be of the highest standard. And the fourth thing about a self-starter is that they learn from their mistakes. They don't continue repeating the same thing over and over again. As a manager, this is one of the most frustrating things and one of my biggest pet peeves, having to constantly say the same thing over and over again, reviewing documents and raising the same issue over and over again. It shows that you are not learning, you're not growing, and also that you might actually just not care. And the thing about being a self-starter is that nobody can teach that quality to you. If you're not self-driven, nobody can actually teach you how to be self-driven. You can't teach somebody to care when they don't care. The second thing that will set you apart is communication. This is so simple, yet so many people fail at this. So I want to take you through some scenarios where it's pivotal for you to communicate. The first scenario is when you need help. A lot of people look at needing help as a weakness, but it's actually a superpower because most people don't know how to ask for help. And it's actually much better to ask for help than to spend hours or days doing the wrong thing. There is nobody who knows everything, not even your boss. The next scenario that demands you to communicate is when you've made a mistake. It's better to admit when you've done something wrong than to wait for it to be discovered. Similar to how the justice system works, the consequences will likely be less if you actually come forward instead of covering up. The next scenario is to request feedback. Asking for feedback communicates that you care about performing well. So you get brownie points just for asking, what can I do better? The next scenario is when your performance is at risk. Perhaps somebody has died in your family, perhaps you're going through a heartbreak, perhaps you are not well physically, and this is likely to affect your performance. We're all human, so life happens, but you need to actually communicate about that, because how can somebody accommodate you if they don't know? And this is not about oversharing or telling your boss everything that's going on in your life. It's about raising the alarm. And when you do that, it allows your boss to also plan ahead. Maybe they can actually reallocate some of your work to some of the other team members for a while. Maybe they can actually give you additional leave so that you have time to recover. Maybe they can actually give you longer to do your tasks. But when you don't communicate and then your performance suffers, you will end up at HR, and by then nobody will care what the reasons are. Nobody will care why you checked out. The other day, I communicated to my boss that I felt burnt out. So I took a mental health day and I went out for lunch and went to a movie. And that was actually better than going to the office and doing nothing or doing the barest of minimums. The next scenario of when to communicate is when you disagree. Now, being a good employee is not about being a puppet. It's important for you to have your own opinions, because how else can you add value if you disagree with everything that's said? In fact, you get more respect when you have your own opinions and can back them up, as long as you're not combative and insisting on your own way all the time. Third thing that will set you apart is having a positive mindset. The same way you can't be happy every day, you also can't be complaining every day. They say your attitude determines your altitude. One of the most draining things is actually working with people who are constantly complaining, and they don't actually even want solutions. They just want to sulk and commiserate. My suggestion is, if you hate your job, the best thing you can do for yourself and others is to go somewhere else. Now, being positive is also about avoiding conflict and avoiding being emotional at work. So ladies, no crying at work. I actually had to be a mediator in a conflict and emotional situation at some point, and it doesn't look good. People don't forget, and it will come back to bite you. And people will not only question your ability to lead, but they will also lose respect for you. Your best bet is being amicable with everybody at work. So that means that even if things are hard, even if you have a conflict at work, you have your meltdowns at home. You cry at home, not at work. Another trait of having a positive mindset is being adaptable and flexible. So when things change, you don't get stuck in the old way of doing things and you don't get stuck in the past. You move with the change, or else you're going to hold your whole team back. You can't be getting a new manager who's trying to make improvements and then you keep saying, but my old manager used to do it like this. The fourth thing that will set you apart is performing well. At the end of the day, you are being paid to do a job. And it doesn't matter if you're the best dressed in the office. It doesn't matter if you're the nicest person in the office. If you do not do the job you were hired to do, none of it matters. In order to perform well at work, you need to have a good understanding of what is expected of you. If you're not clear on that, that's the first thing you need to find out. After that, you need to continually be improving your abilities. You can't be struggling with one thing for 2 years. When I joined my current workplace, they were very pedantic about formatting on Word documents. And I had not really worked extensively on Word, so I was really bad at it. But I then went on a Microsoft Word course and made sure that every report I submitted was better than the last. And how I did this was by making sure that everything that my manager raised in previous reports was addressed before it ever sat in front of him. And I had decided that my team is going to be the most efficient team in the whole of internal audit, and we're also going to produce the best reports. And I can safely say that I have achieved that mandate that I set for myself. Today, my manager actually asks me to review on his behalf. Another way that you're actually going to set yourself apart as a good performer is to learn quickly. This is also something that I decided that I was going to do several years ago. And how I was going to do it is that nobody would have to teach me the same thing more than once. And I managed to achieve that because every time somebody taught me something, I took very detailed notes of what I learned so that I wouldn't have to go back and ask. And remember, your number one job description is to make your boss happy. So you need to study them and make sure you understand what makes them tick. Make sure that you are the solution to the problem that they have. They should be losing their mind at the thought of you leaving the organization. And that's what will get you promotions and increases. The last way that you can set yourself apart is by being reliable. I can do without a lot of things, but reliability is not one of them. And this is not about being perfect. It's about doing what you say you're going to do. If you said something was going to be done by Friday and then Friday comes along and you keep quiet and somebody has to actually follow up with you for this deliverable, you've lost your credibility. I remember several years ago, I was on this audit and every time there was a deadline, this girl would just take sick leave. And I had given her the benefit of the doubt. I really thought she was sick. But then I came to find out that she did this on all her projects. And if that's you, if people have to do your job, if people have to chase after you, then forget about career progression. And one thing people don't realize is that even if you leave, even if you're bad in one organization, counting on the fact that you're going to go somewhere else, it might still come back to bite you. I remember last year when I had a vacancy in my team, and I saw a CV of somebody who was actually at the previous company that I worked. And the thing is that I remembered that this person was actually on performance improvement when we were at that company. And by virtue of that, I could not consider this person for the role. I had somebody actually say that the way that you actually improve your delivery is by under-promising and over-delivering. So if you think something is going to take you 2 days, then give yourself 3 days. But then if the 3 days comes and you're still not done, or you can actually anticipate beforehand that you're not going to be able to meet a deadline, you need to apply principle number 2, which is to communicate. I typically have grace when somebody comes to me beforehand and communicates that they won't be able to meet a deadline instead of waiting until the deadline has passed. Because if you do that, you've already lost. And that's it for how you can set yourself apart at work. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching.